Yoink! What's up, beautiful people? I just had such an amazing phone call with a man that I'm celebrating big time, honoring big time, because we went to the depths. And it's quite odd. It's quite odd. This seems to be happening quite a lot in my world lately with people who come into my vortex, into my field, and who come into contact with me. We tend to have these deep conversations. Obviously, that's what I love, and I really believe in my capacity to be in those spaces. But he initially called because he was referred to me because of FIFO Happiness and what we're doing, and one of our current clients referring him on, and he's part of a mining company as well, HSC, and currently putting together their mental health plan for the next year, and really just asking about how we work together and what it is that we deliver and how we believe we can help. And so we spoke about that for a little bit, and then I shared my experience, the why behind FIFO Happiness, the why behind my passion and drive to create change in this space, to create change within mining mental health. And we got onto his story, his experience, and he has a lot of it, both overseas and here, disconnected from family for a long time because of COVID. And man, I just really felt in my heart for this man, for this brother of mine in the industry, who I could hear in the way that he was speaking that there was a level of pain there. And so celebrating this man big time, honoring him big time, because I asked his permission to drop him into his body and to give him the opportunity to feel the emotion that was alive for him, which was causing a level of anxiety, a level of fear and worry and stress. And why I'm celebrating him is because he said yes. Because although it was uncomfortable, because although he hadn't felt it before and it was new, he said yes. And for a man in his position, putting together what he's putting together, to say yes to that shows such a deep level of trust for someone that he had only met on the phone like 5 or 10 minutes ago. And so we get him into his body through the breath and breathing, belly breathing, activating that vagus nerve, going from fight or flight to parasympathetic or more parasympathetic, and rest and digest, a place of calm and rational thinking. So we get him into his body, and we start breathing into the memory that's causing this stress, this worry, this anxiety, this fear right now. So we breathe into that memory, and we look to understand what sensations are alive in the body. What am I feeling and where, and how would I describe that sensation? And he described it as heat in the back of the neck and a poking in the chest. So we breathed into that, breathed into the poking in the chest and the heat in the neck. And after that breath cycle, we decided to label that feeling, that sensation, with an emotion. And at first there was this level, a layer of fear, and then underneath that, and to his credit, he brought his own awareness to this, realized that it was sadness. And so celebrating this man for going there, to feeling it, because the next step was breathing into sadness, breathing into those areas in the body, breathing into and allowing sadness to be in his body without disconnecting from here, disconnecting from the poking in the chest, the heat in the neck, and going up to the mind, and then trying to find ways to disconnect from feeling, disconnect through whatever avoidance or coping mechanisms. He stayed there, he stayed with it, he breathed into it, he experienced sadness in its fullness, and allowed tears to flow, which is beautiful. And we went a step further. We breathed into that again, into that memory, into the poking in the chest, into the heat in the neck, into this feeling of fear, and underneath that fear, this level of sadness. And then we went to a memory in the past, the one that was most visceral, that created the same sensation or feeling in the body. And we found it. And it was a pretty significant moment. It had that same feeling, which also created a level of sweatiness, clamminess in the hands. And again, tears began to roll because he gave himself permission to be there, to be in the body, to not disconnect, to not avoid the feelings, and to sit in it, to understand what it felt like to feel the sadness that he had been disconnected from, he had ignored, pushed aside, or buried for so long, which was now raising its head again in these moments that he's going through right now, which is causing this level of anxiety, stress, fear, and worry. And after that, we breathed a little bit more, and he started to relax. He spoke about his shoulders dropping and relaxing and releasing, and about feeling really good after having felt into that emotion. And this seems to be a common theme lately, where I'm talking to men in the mining industry about how to feel emotions, because a lot of men don't understand that they can feel an emotion, that they can feel it, and it's only our assumption of how it's going to impact us, and the fact that we constantly avoid it, that causes us suffering. Because if we experience it in its fullness, if we stop running, if we stop detaching from the body and the feeling body, and face it head on, not just face it, but welcome it and experience it in its fullness, then it's no longer a threat. It's just something that we as humans, with our capacity to have this range, to have the ability to experience both the dark and the light, that duality, that polarity, it just becomes another experience on this journey, another stepping stone, another moment in either an ebb or a flow. And once you get to that place of sitting in, experiencing an emotion attached to a moment or a memory from the past that you have been avoiding for so long, and you realize that it's not as scary as you think it is, that it doesn't put you in a position that you believe it will, then that's when you can really start to make progress, take consistent, constructive, empowered action, and show up, understanding that feeling your emotions is such a beautiful and healthy part of this human experience. I feel very blessed to be doing what I do. I feel very blessed to have trust from people who come into my vortex and who choose to drop into this, not for me, but for themselves. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the way things are going and how the men in my world are choosing to take a stand for themselves. So, yeah, that's about it. Ciao.